Looking at my dad's bank account, I found almost $600 million there. This money is all mine now, I realized. I need no more of you. I was still in mourning after my loving father-in-law passed away when my husband came to me and casually announced he wanted a divorce. As it happens, he was only displaying his actual colors until he acquired the $600 million inheritance from his father. He considered me as nothing more than an ATM, ready for Dad to die so he may live a luxurious life free from employment. Though I had seen flashes of his actual character previously, I never understood he was this horrible. I was clenching my hands before I knew it, furious at myself for being duped into this marriage. While I could forgive being misled, I couldn't bear him disparaging my gentle father-in-law. "Fine," I replied. "Hand me those divorce papers." I grabbed the papers from my husband, fast-signed them, and tossed them back at him. I said, "All right, the rest is up to you." "Yeah, leave it to me," he boasted. I passed him out of the living room and left the house. He promised to mail my stuff. I knew my spouse would be sorry about divorcing me. Sure enough, he phoned me later and panicked when I told him the $600 million was only a fiction. "She's Mary, working in sales. I am 45 years old. John, my spouse, is 45 as well and used to work in sales. Today he stays at home. He became a homemaker for a reason, but to explain that, I should start with my first husband. My second marriage is this one. 5 years ago, a work accident claimed the first spouse, leaving me a widow. Between severance pay and life insurance, I came upon almost $600,000. My first marriage took place later in my 30s, hence we had no children. Along with my ex-in-laws, I inherited the money, but they advised me, "We're almost 82 years old and don't have much time left, so we don't need it." Unable to accept it, I decided to donate the money to my ex-brother-in-law and his wife, who resided with my ex-in-laws. Still, they also remarked, "We don't need much since it was money belonging to my brother. You ought to apply it." They therefore only grabbed a meager share of the funds. Ultimately, most of the money came back to me after paying a substantial inheritance tax bill. By the time I was 41, combined with our savings and the fact I worked, I was really wealthy. Still, I felt hollow sitting by myself at home staring at the figures in my bank account. Nobody was there when I returned from work, and none ever will be. The bed next me stayed just as it had been when I turned in for sleep. The worst of it was unintentionally making breakfast for two. I considered, this must be what it feels like to have a hole in your heart as I bit the second piece of toast. I had to keep working, so even though I really wanted to take some time off, I returned to my job with emptiness inside me. Feeling a great void all the time, I yearned for someone, anyone, to listen to me. Someone turned out to be my present hubby. He remarked, "I'm sorry for any inconvenience," when I told him about my spouse dying and how I had to take some time off because of it. I answered fast, No, it was hardly at all inconvenient. Apart from that, your husband was a lucky man to have someone looking after him so thoroughly. He must have been really delighted." Then he spoke somewhat about himself, stating, "Regarding me, I'm horrible in relationships. I get dumped fast even when I do date someone. I know it's due to my negligent attitude, but changing who you are seems difficult. Before we developed closer, my husband and I were business friends. Knowing he was a happy person, I found myself chatting to him everything when I visited his business. Usually, anyone would find such a depressing and weighty narrative off-putting, yet he listened silently and then made light-hearted jokes to help me to relax. His words and grin appeared to cover some of the hole in my heart. He kept listening to my experiences, and we began to meet away from the office. I unintentionally dropped a receipt one day while we were chatting, and he laughed, saying, "Wow, my wallet is twice as fat with coins. You dropped a receipts." We started laughing together. I need to organize it, but it's such a hassle. Pulling some cash caused receipts to fall out as he went to pay at a store. After I gathered up the receipts and returned them to him, he jammed them back into his wallet, grumbling over the coins. I said, teasing, "You're like a kid." "Whither?" "45, you know," he answered. He was a touch reckless, as he indicated, but seeing him helped me feel the hole in my heart gradually close. We continued to meet in secret. A year later, he confided in me he had feelings for me. I was conflicted since my former husband died just 1 year ago, but I felt as though my late spouse was advising me, "Don't stay stuck, go forward." I then made the decision to begin seeing John. Though everyone around us had different ideas, making that crucial decision started me to recover. But just 1 month later, John raised even more questions and urged me to make a very crucial decision. Shouldn't we be married? Our age makes it wiser to make decisions sooner rather than later. This time I overlooked the voice leading from my late husband. I chose to wed John since he seemed to be advising me to rely on my own intuition and keep on forward. "Okay, let's get married," I said, startled even by how fast I decided on it. Presumably, John's personality was rubbing off on me. I began to consider that, if it would increase my positivity, a little carelessness wasn't so bad. John also taught me at the same time that too much carelessness could be troublesome. "Wait, live with your dad?" I questioned. "Yeah, he lately became ill and needed assistance with daily activities. Thinking he was still youthful, he continued to work till 73. Now this is happening." "And what about your mother? Is she assisting him?" "Wonderful. Not once I mentioned it. Mom is not here right now. When I was little, my parents separated. I haven't seen her since." This is the first I am learning about. Apologetic, not enraged, but it's a delicate subject to bring up since we weren't convinced about getting married yet. I considered telling you later. You could have told me about your parents even if you pushed off discussing living together. I would have recognized that living together may be a choice. Let's not stress over the little details, though. Just meet my dad, then determine whether you would be comfortable living with him. And if I say I cannot live with him, we'll sort it out then." John grinned. I could not, however, grin back. "I'm not going to declare I want not to live with you simply because I want not to be married. I only wish he had previously informed me the crucial points. Though I now know it's not a good thing after all, I believed being lazy was not that bad. In the end, I consented to meet his father as John advised. Then I started to get his meaning about little details. "Your house is rather big," I said. "Just a little. We have some spare rooms. It's only Dad and myself. You can use any of the extra rooms after you move in," John said. I was a bit shy since I was about to meet his dad for the first time. John opened the gate and headed for the front door, discounting my emotions. 3 floors tall, his house was somewhat larger than that of the neighbors. Living there with just the 2 of them looked rather luxurious. That's what I assumed, but John didn't appear unhappy. "Dad is really frugal. He should have built a larger house," he said to himself. But meeting his dad to verify what he stated made me too anxious. "Dad," I carried her, John added. "This is Mary," I exclaimed. "Sorry to greet you from bed. It's been hard to move lately," his father said. "Please don't strain yourself," I urged. John's father stood up with John's assistance. He seemed able to get up and walk slowly with some support so he could manage with some assistance. He was not bedridden. Though he had physical problems, his father seemed more intelligent than I would have thought. "So, Mary, you work in sales for office supplies. Selling the hardware gets more difficult with the shift to paperless offices, right?" asked his dad. "Yes, industry-wide equipment sales have been declining for about 11 years. Everyone is focusing on new services or business expansion," I said. "You should look at nations where the home market for the equipment is virtually saturated, since it is almost saturated here." Demand for fresh services exists still. One could choose to proceed with IT integration. Surely there is anything known as MPS, he stated. Totally forgot I was speaking with my future father-in-law. Turned to work mode since the discussion inevitably led into work discourse. His father was most likely being sensitive of my emotions. He did not press too hard on the marriage issue either. Just a few minutes of conversation turned me from disrespecting him to respecting him. I began to see why John labeled living with his dad little matters. He most likely knew I wouldn't object. About 30 minutes into our talk, his father remarked, "My back's starting to hurt. I'm sorry to cut this short, Mary, but I have to relax. Kindly attend to John. He is such a chatty person." "Sure. Is sure the right response?" I asked back. His father seemed to abruptly off the discussion to save me some trouble. Though I wanted to chat more, I wanted to avoid draining him. A little let down, I headed off with John. John mentioned his dad more on the way back. "Dad's a serial entrepreneur," John declared. "A serial what?" I questioned. "Serial entrepreneur. He founded businesses, expanded them, then sold them. He has done it several times," John clarified. "You can just buy and sell businesses like that?" I was startled. Yes, indeed. Selling one business can net millions of dollars. Starting and running a business also requires a lot of money, hence the sale is not entirely profit. Still, Dad is rather rich. Simply said, he hates to spend. Dad prefers not to spend money. John could create a mansion that would cause jaws to drop. "Do you know much about his work?" I asked. "He talks hardly about money or employment. He never taught me how to make money or hired me for his businesses. He rewards me only by living at home. If he's got so much money, he could spoil me a little more. Don't you think?" John shot back, "Your dad probably has his reasons." "He seems to be a really remarkable man," I said. John could feel overwhelmed by him, thus it made logical. Given how wonderful his father is, John undoubtedly got compared to him a lot, so it's logical that he'd have some issues. "Why, by the way, did your mother leave? Your dad looks really nice. It's difficult to envision their marriage failing." "Mom sought an easy life and spent a lot of money. After the divorce, people mainly came after Dad's money, so he determined never to marry again. He focused on work instead. With that much of money, he could have spent a little, don't you think?" John shot back, "I don't believe in spending money just because you have it." I couldn't agree with John on this since, from what he told me, it seemed his mother depended on his father's money. But I believe his comments resulted from feelings of inadequacy relative to his father. John and I later discussed living with his father. Currently, his father depends on John for support and also gets help from a housekeeper when John is at work. I assumed my husband and I would keep working while my house assistant helped to look after my father-in-law. John startled me, though, with another notion. "I want to take care of Dad and quit my job," John stated. "What? Get off your employment?" I was startled. Dad is quite an amazing person, right? From now on, I want to help him without depending on a carer, as I believe I haven't done anything for him all this time. I'll be like a homemaker," John explained. "I'll handle the house, too," John said. "Are you sure you won't regret quitting your job?" I requested. "I would regret not doing more for Dad." With a little smile, he said, "I can go back to work after he's gone." I said, frightened, "That joke isn't funny." Though it ended out otherwise, I had assumed my husband would be resentful of his father. He truly loved his dad in spite of all. "You better handle the housework if you're going to be a homemaker," I cautioned. "Leave it to me," John responded, puffing out his chest proudly. I left the housework to my husband since my father-in-law would pay his own bills and my income would be plenty for the two of us. Everything went according when we were married and started sharing a house. I worked and John took care of the house. He helped his dad, handled the budget, and divided the housework. He would say, "You're tired from work. I'll handle the house stuff. You rest," when I tried to be helpful. Still friendly, my father-in-law told me many insightful tales. Our second marriage was going well. However, I noticed that my father-in-law would sometimes frown when he saw John doing housework. A month after we started living together, John began slacking off with the house tasks. "You are once more asleep on the couch. You hadn't been there all day, though," I queried. "Nope," trying to justify himself, John stated. "I went to the toilet too, and to the refrigerator when I was thirsty." "That is not what I mean. What about dinner? Have you lately gone grocery shopping?" I saw it. "Dining's ready. Don't worry," he said. I looked across to the kitchen, but there was no cooking visible. On the dining table, I found just an empty jar. He obviously had been sloth all day. From this, I knew what John meant by "dinner's ready." Just perfect moment. The intercom rang, John grabbed his money and went to the door. Too astonished to speak, I said nothing. For the first 3 weeks, John had only taken careful care of the house. He then progressively quit doing anything, and I ended up cooking, cleaning, and doing laundry. Someone with a careless attitude usually starts strong and then rapidly slacks off. Not expecting this, caught in the thrill of marriage. On the other hand, my father-in-law had to have foreseen it early on, hence he scowled when he saw John cleaning. My father-in-law started apologizing to me as my husband started neglecting his responsibilities. "That lad is really rather reckless. I truly apologize, Mary. After being married, I expected he would grow more responsible, but it appears he is only troublemaker. Feel free to kick him out should he start to be a burden." "I honestly wouldn't do that. It is good. I apologize." I tried to correct him, but he's just, "Well, you know." "It's fine, but he isn't neglecting to help you, right?" I probed. "No, he does help me at least a little," I answered, noting a small change in the look of my father-in-law. John obviously wasn't totally neglecting his father, but he also wasn't working third of the required amount. Still, my father-in-law was most likely downplaying the circumstances to keep us from fighting. I muttered, "I'm sorry." With just one word, "Sorry," me father-in-law answered, "No, Mary, you don't need to apologize." He appeared to know how I felt. We both apologized, and there was a bit of discomfort between us. My father-in-law swiftly switched the topic with a happier tone to help to release the tension. "Oh, I need your help. I'm planning my end of life." John seemed to me not handling it with confidence. "Planning for your end of life. It is less negative than it sounds. I simply want to steer clear of any problems down road." I understood. Should there be anything I could do, I would be pleased to assist. Discussing John made us both wary, so we avoided housework and conversations about him. Though there were some kind gestures that delighted me, it was an awkward approach of showing consideration. "Is there anything inconvenient at home?" my in-law questioned. "Not really, but the bathroom might use some fixing." "I had just wanted the water heater checked," I said, but my casual comment developed into something far greater. "Wait, what's this?" When I found the modifications, I cried. The bathroom was totally remodeled by a contractor my father-in-law knew. Not only were the tub and shower replaced, but the walls and floors were redone with special coatings to prevent filth, and the drain was modified to make cleaning easier. To enable my father-in-law in and out effortlessly, they even put in place a bath lift. "Now I can enjoy a neat, clean bath, and it's easier for me to get in and out," he remarked. He stated it was a lavish expenditure of funds. This occurred several times where a minor request became a major upgrade. "You better handle the housework if you're going to be a homemaker," I cautioned. "Leave it to me," John responded, puffing out his chest proudly. I left the housework to my husband since my father-in-law would pay his own bills and my income would be plenty for the two of us. Everything went according when we were married and started sharing a house. I worked, and John took care of the house. He helped his dad handle the budget and divided the housework. He would say, "You're tired from work. I'll handle the house stuff. You rest," when I tried to be helpful. Still friendly, my father-in-law told me many insightful tales. Our second marriage was going well. However, I noticed that my father-in-law would sometimes frown when he saw John doing housework. A month after we started living together, John began slacking off with the house tasks. "You are once more asleep on the couch. You haven't been there all day, though." I queried. "Nope," trying to justify himself. John stated, "I went to the toilet too, and to the refrigerator when I was thirsty." "That is not what I mean." "What about dinner? Have you lately gone grocery shopping?" I sought. "Dining's ready, don't worry," he said. I looked across to the kitchen, but there was no cooking visible. On the dining table, I found just an empty jar. He obviously had been sloth all day. From this, I knew what John meant by "dinner's ready." Just perfect moment. The intercom rang. John grabbed his money and went to the door. Too astonished to speak, I said nothing. For the first 3 weeks, John had only taken careful care of the house. He then progressively quit doing anything, and I ended up cooking, cleaning, and doing laundry. Someone with a careless attitude usually starts strong and then rapidly slacks off. Not expecting this, caught in the thrill of marriage. On the other hand, my father-in-law had to have foreseen it early on, hence he scowled when he saw John cleaning. My father-in-law started apologizing to me as my husband started neglecting his responsibilities. "That lad is really rather reckless." "I truly apologize, Mary. After being married, I expected he would grow more responsible, but it appears he is only troublemaker. Feel free to kick him out should he start to be a burden." "I honestly wouldn't do that. It is good. I apologize." I tried to correct him, but he's just, "Well, you know." "It's fine, but he isn't neglecting to help you, right?" I probed. "No, he does help me at least a little," I answered, noting a small change in the look of my father-in-law. John obviously wasn't totally neglecting his father, but he also wasn't working third of the required amount. Still, my father-in-law was most likely downplaying the circumstances to keep us from fighting. I muttered, "I'm sorry." With just one word, "Sorry," me father-in-law answered, "No, Mary, you don't need to apologize." He appeared to know how I felt. We both apologized, and there was a bit of discomfort between us. My father-in-law swiftly switched the topic with a happier tone to help to release the tension. "Oh, I need your help. I'm planning my end of life." John seemed to me not handling it with confidence. "Planning for your end of life? It is less negative than it sounds. I simply want to steer clear of any problems down road." I understood. Should there be anything I could do, I would be pleased to assist. Discussing John made us both wary, so we avoided housework and conversations about him. Though there were some kind gestures that delighted me, it was an awkward approach of showing consideration. "Is there anything inconvenient at home?" my in-law questioned. "Not really, but the bathroom might use some fixing." I had just wanted the water heater checked, I said, but my casual comment developed into something far greater. "Wait, what's this?" When I found the modifications, I cried. The bathroom was totally remodeled by a contractor my father-in-law knew. Not only were the tub and shower replaced, but the walls and floors were redone with special coatings to prevent filth, and the drain was modified to make cleaning easier. To enable my father-in-law in and out effortlessly, they even put in place a bath lift. "Now I can enjoy a neat, clean bath, and it's easier for me to get in and out," he remarked. He stated it was a lavish expenditure of funds. This occurred several times where a minor request became a major upgrade. My husband will soon regret divorcing me. That $600 million was simply fantasy. A few days later, my ex-husband called while staying at a hotel searching for a new place to live. "Hey, what the hell did you do?" he asked. I instinctively pulled the phone away from my ear as he started shouting. He seemed perplexed, thus I had to clarify what was going on. I can guess what happened, but why don't you tell me? I asked quietly. They claimed this money cannot be taken out of Dad's account when I sought to withdraw. What's going on? That should be $600 million in there, he said, his voice tinged with irritation. Looks like you were ignorant. Since your dad didn't spoil you, you never took an interest in his affairs, right? And he never brought up his work with you. Stop with the riddles. There's money, right? He demanded. Yes, there's $600 million, but it's collateral, so you can't touch it, I said. His voice faltering, he asked, Collateral? That's right. Though untouchable, like a pie in the sky, the money is in the account. Furthermore, that money is about to be utilized to pay off debt, hence it will be gone shortly, I said. You're kidding. With $600 million, I am unable to use any of it. As he began to falter, his voice got softer. Since I assisted with the end-off life plans for my father-in-law, I knew about the $600 million being collateral. Should something happen to him, he had requested me to manage affairs. I was supposed to pay his obligations with the $600 million he left behind. But I left the papers to my ex, urging him to handle the remainder because he abruptly insisted on a divorce. What did Dad do with the $600 million? My ex questioned. I shot back. He used it for something he loved. Confused, what does that mean? He inquired. Dad decided his next job would be his last and utilized his funds for something he loved, that seafood processing and distribution company in Germany he always talked about, at over 72. He trusted the management to locals and hoped to enjoy his retirement here, but it was a major flop, and he lost practically everything. Laughing, he said it was only natural as he did it without any actual knowledge. Regarding where he spent his money launching that company, he had no regrets. Using his reserves as collateral, he borrowed $600 million, but it became debt. He therefore intended to make it back off with another employment. Though it looked unlikely, he did not think so. He kept enough for retirement even with the debt. It's amazing in the environment we live in today, where many battle into retirement. But his health deteriorated as he worked on organizing the Germany company. He renegotiated his payback schedule with the bank at that point. Considering his extensive record of high-value deals, they trusted him. Tell them, he said, take the collateral if I can't work anymore. They decided on a 2-year grace period whereby, should he be unable to work, the debt would be paid off using the collateral. That year is gone. Now is the time to pay off the loan. My ex asked, his voice full of disbelief, so this $600 million is debt repayment money and will soon be zero. Indeed. Was another bank account found by you? One ought to be for living expenses. Yeah, I came upon one with $80,000 in it. That is free money you can spend. That's your inheritance. $600 million became $80,000. Why did he not get ready better for his retirement? Clearly shocked, my ex asked questions. The $80,000 startled me too, but given him, he most likely intended to add more if necessary. He looked to be able of anything. And you seem to have not yet checked the will. My ex told me Dad would leave me approximately 20%. We are divorcing. You could object as it would violate your legitimate inheritance. But I'd like to honor his wishes. Observing he was breathing heavily, I replied, I hope you'll agree to the 20%. He had expected to collect $600 million, but the sum kept declining. Today he was frightened. Why had he squandered so much money? With $600 million he could have bought anything. My ex screamed, annoyed. Yelling at me won't make any difference. He had no regrets as he was most happy talking about that period. It was his money, which he spent. He intended to pay back the debt himself, hence nobody could object. You just jumped to judgments and got ahead of yourselves, I said. Why are you so afraid? I asked. I spent all of my own money since I honestly expected to win $600 million. I have empty account, he said. What? Serious? I startled myself. My ex-husband had been squandering money he hardly had yet. He was unemployed right now and couldn't depend on my savings anymore because we were divorced. I knew at last the reason he was so terrified. Still, you have a house and a roof over your head so you could reconstruct your life, right? I said. I have just a tiny savings and am almost 54 without job. To what extent will I be affected? Please assist me, he asked. You do have savings and a job, right? Why should I support a former spouse? You are paying for your own mistakes, I remarked with firmness. Kindly, let us imagine the divorce never took place, he pleaded. I hung off the phone, nevertheless, disregarded his calls. Clearly, a careless attitude is not a positive one. That in mind, I returned to perusing property listings. My ex-husband did surprisingly follow through with the will and provide me $40,000 from the inheritance of my father-in-law. That balanced the money he had taken from me. After handling the $600 million scenario, he most likely felt it was too much effort to worry over $40,000. He supposedly began working in sales once more as well, but he didn't seem to be treating it seriously. Not getting the $600 million damaged his drive, which caused regular errors. Comparatively to the $600 million he missed, he saw his paycheck and lost drive after a month of suffering under the scolding of younger bosses. After just 1 month, he left and is now a part-time worker, barely making enough to cover expenses. That means, though, his $600,000 savings will not grow. Actually, it would most likely drop. I doubt whether he is considering his retirement. Well, I'm not worried about whatever problems he finds now. He will have to labor hard. No ATM exists for him anymore. Starting on my own, I leased a little condo. I transferred the $40,000 from my father-in-law into my bank account. I don't intend to spend it since I treat it as sort of talisman. Seeing it in the account inspires me since it seems as though I am carrying some of the work attitude of my father-in-law. I shall get strength from him today and try my best at work.
Hey, I'm Laura, 28 years old and thriving in my marketing career. But when it comes to my personal life, things are a lot messier. 5 years ago, my dad, Robert, remarried Linda, and suddenly I had 2 step-siblings, Jake, 30, and Megan, 26. Let's just say we're far from the Brady Bunch. Now it's Christmas time, and while I should be feeling festive, I'm anything but. My mom, Elizabeth, is in the hospital battling cancer. She's my rock, my best friend, and the thought of losing her is tearing me apart. I'm determined to make this Christmas special for her, even if it means balancing work and constant hospital visits. I walk into the office, but my mind is already at the hospital. Tom, a coworker of mine, catches my eye. Rough night, Laura. Is it that obvious? I force a smile. Your 3rd coffee gave it away. How's your mom? I sigh. Not great, but I'm planning a surprise for her this Christmas. Tom nods sympathetically. Anything I can do? Actually, yeah. Could you cover for me this afternoon? I need to finish that big project and then head to the hospital. You got it, boss lady, he says with a grin. I bury myself in work, ignoring the buzzing of my phone. It's probably Jake or Megan with another update on Mom. They live closer to the hospital, so they've been the ones keeping me in the loop. I should be grateful, but something about their constant updates always makes me feel uneasy. As I'm wrapping up, my phone buzzes again. It's Jake. Hey sis, they moved Mom to a different hospital for specialized treatment. Here's the new address. I frown. Why didn't they tell me sooner? I pack up quickly, rushing out and nearly running into Linda in the hallway. Laura, I was just coming to find you, she says, her voice sweet but dripping with something that doesn't sit right with me. Sorry, Linda, I've got to run. Mom's been moved to a new hospital. Her face falls slightly. Oh, I see. Well, don't forget about our family dinner tonight. Your father's really looking forward to it. I'll be there if I can, I say, already heading toward the elevator. But Mom comes first. I arrive at the new address, a sleek, modern medical center I've never seen before. Approaching the receptionist, I try to keep my voice steady. Hi, I'm here to see Elizabeth Thompson. She was transferred here today. The receptionist types something into her computer, then looks up, shaking her head. I'm sorry, but we don't have any patient by that name. My heart sinks. That can't be right. My brother said she was moved here for specialized treatment. I'll double check with admissions, but I'm certain we haven't had anyone by that name admitted today. As she makes the call, I dial Jake's number. It goes straight to voicemail. Same with Megan. Panic starts to set in. Did they lie to me? Why would they send me to the wrong hospital? I race back to my car, tears blurring my vision. How could they do this? Why would they keep me from my mom, especially now? As I speed toward the real hospital, I make a silent vow. This betrayal won't go unanswered. Slamming my car door shut, I rush toward the entrance, the icy wind biting at my face. Panic and rage fuel my every step. How could Jake and Megan be so cruel? The automatic doors slide open, and I'm hit with that sterile, antiseptic hospital smell. The reception area is quiet as I approach the desk, barely holding it together. Please tell me Elizabeth Thompson is here, I say, my voice trembling. The nurse types into her computer, then nods. Yes, she's in room 34, but visiting hours are over. Before she can finish, I'm already halfway to the elevator. I check my phone again, still nothing from Jake or Megan. The elevator ride feels endless and exhaustion hits me like a tidal wave. How did everything go so wrong? I was supposed to be here hours ago, surprising Mom with her favorite Christmas treats and a soft blanket I bought for her. When I reach her room, I pause. Through the small window, I can see her sleeping, looking so small and fragile. I take a deep breath and quietly step inside. Mom, I whisper, taking her cold hand in mine. I'm so sorry. I'm here now. Suddenly, I hear voices outside the door. 2 nurses speaking in hushed tones. Poor thing, one says. She was so upset earlier, kept asking if her daughter had called. I know, the other replies. It broke my heart. How could anyone abandon their mother on Christmas Eve? Their words stab into me. I didn't abandon her. I was tricked, manipulated by the very people I should have been able to trust. Tears stream down my face. I sit by her side, holding her hand, whispering apologies she can't hear. As the first light of Christmas morning filters through the window, I make a silent vow. Jake and Megan won't get away with this. Around 7 a.m., Mom stirs. Her eyes flutter open, and when she sees me, her face lights up with joy. Laura, you're here. I force a smile, my heart breaking. Of course, Mom. Merry Christmas. I'm so sorry I'm late. She squeezes my hand, her grip weak. I thought you weren't coming. I would never abandon you, Mom. There was a mix-up with the hospital, but I'm here now. I'm not going anywhere. As I explain what happened, I see the hurt in her eyes. It kills me that she spent even a moment thinking I've forgotten her. Oh, sweetheart, she whispers, touching my cheek. It's not your fault. I'm just glad you're here. Her forgiveness only fuels my anger toward Jake and Megan. How dare they hurt her like this? How dare they try to come between us? Laura? Mom's voice snaps me back to reality. Is everything okay? I paste on another fake smile. Everything's fine, Mom. Just some work stuff. Let's focus on us, okay? I've got some presents for you. As I pull out the gifts I'd so carefully chosen, my mind is already racing, planning my next move. Jake and Megan thought they could mess with me. Mess with us. They have no idea what's coming. The weeks following Christmas blur into endless hospital visits and sleepless nights. Mom's getting weaker, and I'm spending every spare moment by her side. But beneath my exhaustion, a fire burns. I'm done being the victim. I start small. I keep a meticulous log of every interaction with Jake and Megan. Their lies, their manipulations. It's all going down. But it's not enough. I need more. One night, after leaving the hospital, I run into Michael, an old college friend who's now a detective. We grab coffee, and before I know it, everything pours out of me. Jesus, Laura, Michael says, shaking his head. That's messed up. Have you thought about taking legal action? I sigh. I've thought about it, but it's not that simple. It's my word against theirs. Michael leans in, his voice low. Look, I shouldn't be telling you this, but if you want to build a case, You need hard evidence. Bank statements, emails, anything that shows a pattern. His words stick with me. The next day, I take a leave of absence from work to care for Mom. It's not a lie, but it's not the whole truth either. With my newfound free time, I dig deeper into Jake and Megan's lives. It's amazing what you can find when you start looking. Jake's social media is full of casino check-ins, while Megan flaunts her lavish shopping sprees. Where's all this money coming from? As I gather evidence, doubt creeps in. Am I going too far? But then I remember Mom's face on Christmas morning, the hurt in her eyes. My resolve hardens. No, I'm not going too far. I'm just getting started. It all comes to a head at a family dinner. Dad and Linda, as usual, are clueless, but Jake and Megan, they're in rare form. So, Laura, Jake smirks. How's work? Still climbing that corporate ladder. I force a smile. It's fine, Jake. How's the family business? He falters just for a second before recovering. Never better. Dad's thinking of making me partner soon, right, Dad? Dad beams with pride. If only he knew. Megan, ever the instigator, chimes in. And how's Elizabeth doing? Still hanging in there. The casual cruelty in her tone makes my blood boil. She's fighting, I say through gritted teeth. Not that you'd know, since you never visit. Megan scoffs. Well, some of us have actual jobs to do, Laura. I'm on the verge of losing it when my phone buzzes. It's Michael. Got something big. Meet me ASAP. Later, in a dimly lit coffee shop, Michael slides a folder across the table. You're not going to believe this, he says. Jake's been embezzling from your dad's company for months, and Megan, she's been stealing drugs from the hospital and selling them. Serious felonies. I flip through the documents, my hands shaking. This is it. This is everything I need to take them down. Laura, Michael says softly, are you sure you want to do this? Once you start, there's no going back. I think about Mom, lying in that hospital bed, getting weaker every day. I think about all the lies, the manipulation, the pain Jake and Megan have caused. And I think about Christmas Eve, alone, scared, and betrayed in a strange hospital. I'm sure. I say, my voice steady. They've had this coming for a long time. The game is on, and this time, I'm making the rules. The day I set my plan in motion feels surreal. With shaking hands, I send anonymous tips, one to the hospital about Megan's drug theft, another to Dad's company about Jake's embezzlement. It's like lighting a fuse and waiting for the explosion, but I can't focus on that now. Mom's condition is deteriorating rapidly, and I'm spending every moment by her side. One afternoon, as I'm reading to her, she squeezes my hand weakly. Laura, honey, she whispers, her voice fragile. I need you to promise me something. I lean in close. Anything, Mom. Don't let this anger consume you. You're better than that. I feel tears welling up. Does she know? How could she? I don't know what you mean, Mom. She smiles softly, knowingly. Yes, you do. Just remember, the best revenge is living well. Before I can respond, her eyes flutter closed. The heart monitor flatlines, and just like that, she's gone. I collapse onto her, sobbing, as the nurses rush in. In that moment, all thoughts of revenge vanish. I just want my mom back. The next few days pass in a blur. I'm numb as I plan the funeral, going through the motions. When the day arrives, the church is packed. I stand stoically, accepting condolences, my eyes fixed on the casket, my heart shattered. Suddenly, there's a commotion at the back of the church. 2 police officers enter, heading straight for Jake and Megan. Jacob and Megan Thompson, you're under arrest, one officer announces loudly, for embezzlement and drug trafficking, respectively. The church erupts in shocked whispers. Jake and Megan protest, their faces a mix of rage and disbelief as they're handcuffed. I catch Jake's eye, and in that moment he knows. His face contorts with fury. You, he snarls. You did this on the day of your mother's funeral, you heartless. His words cut off as the officers drag them away. The truth comes pouring out. Jake's gambling, Megan's drug dealing, everything. I watch as Dad and Linda's perfect family crumbles around them, their world shattered. But instead of triumph, I feel empty. This was supposed to be my moment of victory, but all I feel is exhaustion. Mom's words echo in my mind. The best revenge is living well. Weeks pass. Jake's trial ends in a guilty verdict, and he's sentenced to prison. Megan loses her nursing license and faces her own legal battles. Dad and Linda are left devastated, struggling to come to terms with the truth. As the dust settles, I realize Mom was right. Living well is the best revenge. In her name, I start a foundation to support cancer patients and their families. With each person we help, I feel a little piece of my heart heal. A year later, I stand at Mom's grave, placing fresh flowers on the headstone. I've just come from a board meeting for the foundation. It's thriving and my career is back on track. We did it, Mom, I whisper. The truth came out, but you were right. Living well, that's the real victory. As I turn to leave, a sense of peace washes over me. I glance back at the gravestone, the weight of revenge lifted. I love you, Mom. Thanks for teaching me the most important lesson of all. Now, I know that no matter how dark things get, the truth always finds a way to shine through. What about you? If you were in Laura's position, do you think her actions were justified, or did she go too far in her pursuit of justice? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Hey everyone, I'm Emily. It was late spring, and the air was thick with the anticipation of graduation. I was preparing for one of the most significant moments of my life, delivering the valedictorian speech. But little did I know, my biggest challenge wouldn't be the speech itself or the crowd. It was my grandmother, Helen. Living with Helen was no easy feat. She had a sharp tongue and a knack for making me feel small. My mom, on the other hand, was the complete opposite, always there with a comforting hug and words of encouragement. She was my rock. As for Dad, he stayed mostly in the background, silently observing the family dynamics unfold. One afternoon, I sat at my desk, surrounded by drafts of my speech. I could hear Helen's voice drifting up from downstairs, her words laced with that familiar edge. Always the star, isn't she? I wonder if all that praise will go to her head. I rolled my eyes and tried to block her out, focusing on what mattered. This speech was my moment. Years of hard work had led to this, and I wasn't going to let her bring me down. My friends were excited, my teachers proud, and I had big plans for college. But as I fine-tuned my words, a part of me dreaded the inevitable commentary from Helen. Just days before graduation, as I practiced my speech in the living room, she wandered in, her gaze critical. "That's quite an ambitious tone, don't you think? Maybe a bit much," she remarked, her voice dripping with condescension. I clenched my fists, forcing myself to stay calm. "This speech is important to me, Grandma. It's about my future." Helen scoffed, waving her hand dismissively. "Ah, the future. Just remember, pride comes before a fall." Frustrated but determined, I kept refining my speech. Mom, as always, was my biggest supporter. Over dinner, she gave me a reassuring smile. "You're going to be amazing, Emily. Don't let anyone's doubts, especially not family, dim your light." Her words comforted me, but as I lay in bed that night, my mind raced. This wasn't just about the speech or the applause, it was about proving something to myself and to Helen. I needed to show her that my achievements were worth celebrating, no matter what she thought. As graduation day approached, the tension in the house grew thicker. Helen's comments became more frequent, her bitterness casting a shadow over everything. But I stayed focused on what lay ahead, my moment on stage, where I would stand as not just a student, but a young woman ready to face the world. The morning of graduation arrived, sunny and clear, the perfect day for what should have been one of the best moments of my life. I adjusted my gown and cap, catching my mom's proud smile from the front row. "You've got this, Emily," she mouthed, her camera poised and ready. The ceremony began with speeches from the principal and a few teachers. My heart raced as my turn approached. With a deep breath, I stepped up to the podium, smoothing the pages of my speech. "Ladies and gentlemen, fellow graduates," I began, my voice steady and confident. But before I could continue, a piercing siren blared through the air. The fire alarm. Confusion rippled through the crowd. Parents stood up, craning their necks, while staff rushed to manage the situation. The entire ceremony was thrown into chaos. Back inside the school, huddled with a group of classmates, I overheard whispers. "Did you see Mrs. Thompson by the gym just before the alarm?" One of my friends asked, wide-eyed. "Yeah, she looked really flustered," another added. My stomach dropped. They weren't talking about Mrs. Thompson. They were talking about Grandma Helen. No, it couldn't be, but the seed of doubt had already been planted. Later, as the chaos settled and we were allowed back on the field to continue the ceremony, I excused myself to the restroom, needing a moment to collect my thoughts. On my way, I overheard a snippet of conversation that stopped me cold. Just saying, sometimes these kids need to be knocked down a peg or two. The voice drifted out from a slightly ajar janitor's closet. Curiosity pulled me closer. I peeked inside, and there she was, Helen, pacing with her phone pressed to her ear. My heart sank as I caught the tail end of her words. Yes, well, Emily was getting a bit too proud of herself. What's a little alarm compared to a lesson in humility? Her tone was casual, dismissive, completely at odds with the weight of her words. My stomach churned with a mix of anger and heartbreak. My own grandmother had sabotaged my big moment, all because she thought I needed to be humbled. Tears stung my eyes as I backed away, the betrayal settling like a stone in my chest. How could she? Why would she do this to me? Those questions swirled in my mind as I made my way back to the field. The remainder of the ceremony blurred into a haze. The joy of the day was tarnished, and as I looked at Helen, seated with her face unreadable, I knew things between us would never be the same. After the graduation fiasco, I was overwhelmed with emotions. Betrayal cut the deepest. I couldn't stop thinking about how Helen, someone who was supposed to love and support me, had done something so cruel. I needed answers. The next few days became a mission. I spoke to everyone who had been near the gym before the alarm went off. Several classmates mentioned seeing Helen nearby, alone, and looking unusually agitated. My friend Jenna, who had been backstage, even recalled Helen lingering near the fire alarm panel, claiming she was looking for the restroom. With these accounts, I went to the school's security office and asked to see the CCTV footage from that day. What I saw confirmed my worst fears. There was Helen, clear as day, pulling the fire alarm. Every piece of evidence hardened my resolve. This wasn't a prank. It was a deliberate act meant to ruin one of the most important moments of my life. That evening, I confronted Helen at home. The evidence was laid out before us, undeniable. Why? I asked, my voice barely a whisper, thick with the weight of betrayal. Helen's face was a mix of defiance and something unreadable. You were getting too full of yourself, Emily, she said, crossing her arms. Someone had to show you that the world doesn't revolve around you. By humiliating me in front of everyone? My voice cracked, rising with disbelief and hurt. That's how you teach humility. For a moment, Helen faltered. A flicker of remorse crossed her face. I may have gone too far, she admitted, her voice softer now. I didn't mean to hurt you like this. But her apology rang hollow. It wasn't just about what she did. It was about why she did it. She had undermined me, not out of love or concern, but out of some twisted need to put me in my place. Supported by my mom, who had always been my pillar of strength, and friends who stood by me, I made my decision. I could have just let this go. Some wounds cut too deep to heal with words alone. I can't accept your apology, Grandma, I said, my voice steady. Despite the turmoil inside, I managed to say, not this time. You need to reflect on why you felt this was necessary. As I turned away, I felt a bittersweet mix of sadness and relief. It was, perhaps, the hardest decision I had ever made, but it was necessary for my own growth. In that moment, I wasn't just walking away from Grandma Helen. I was stepping into a future where I understood my worth, where no one's jealousy could ever dictate my value again. The fallout from Grandma Helen's actions was swift and severe. News of her sabotage spread like wildfire through our family and the community. The whispers did their work, and within days, everyone knew what she had done at my graduation. The disappointment and shock reverberated in every conversation. Every glance directed her way at community gatherings. Helen soon noticed the cold shoulders, the disapproving looks. Invitations that once filled her calendar dried up, and friends she had known for decades suddenly found reasons not to meet. Her social circle, once a source of pride and comfort, crumbled beneath the weight of her betrayal. The very community she had invested so much in now shunned her, and the consequences of her manipulation extended far beyond just our family. Even her small business suffered. Longtime customers began withdrawing their patronage after hearing about the graduation incident. Trust, the foundation of any successful business, had been eroded. Soon, Helen's financial stability was as compromised as her social standing, leaving her facing an uncertain and lonely future. Meanwhile, the school, recognizing the injustice of what had happened, organized a second graduation ceremony. This time, the stands were filled with solidarity and support, not just for me, but for the principle that no student's moment should ever be stolen from them. As I stood at the podium, ready to deliver the valedictorian speech I had worked so hard on, I felt a surge of strength and independence. The words flowed naturally, speaking not only of academic achievements, but of resilience, community, and the courage to stand against toxicity. I stand here today not just as a graduate, but as a testament to what we can overcome when we stand together, I declared, my voice ringing clear across the field. The applause that followed wasn't just for my academic success, but for the journey I had taken to get there. Looking out at the crowd, I saw faces beaming back at me, their smiles and tears a balm to the wounds Helen's betrayal had left. My mom's eyes were bright with pride, not because of the accolades I had earned, but because of the person I had become. This Redo ceremony was more than just the culmination of my high school career. It was a celebration of personal victory, of rising above the toxic forces that had tried to undermine my achievements. With my diploma in hand and a future full of promise, I stepped off the stage, ready to embrace a life no longer defined by the shadows of others' insecurities. As I moved forward, the past, along with its pain and betrayal, began to recede, leaving behind valuable lessons and a resolve strengthened by adversity. Helen's fate became a stark reminder of where bitterness and envy can lead, a path I was determined never to walk. Today, I look forward to a future filled with possibilities, supported by those who believe in lifting each other up, not tearing each other down. As for Helen, her journey was hers alone to reckon with, a distant echo in the life I was building anew. Now here's a question for you all. Do you think it's ever justified to take drastic actions, like Helen did, if you believe someone needs to be brought down a notch? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Hey, I'm Olivia Evans. I'm 28 and have fought tooth and nail to become a marketing executive. Sounds great, right? It is, except for one little problem, my family. Specifically, my dad, Richard Evans. He's this hotshot businessman who's always made me feel like I'm never enough. Growing up, it was all about Mark. Mark this, Mark that. My cousin, the golden child of the Evans family. I swear, if my dad could have swapped me for him, he wouldn't have fought twice. I remember once when I was 10, I was so excited because I'd won first place in the school science fair. I ran into Dad's office, trophy in hand, beaming. And what did he say? "That's nice, sweetie. Did you hear Mark made the varsity football team as a freshman?" I mean, seriously, it was always like that. Mark was perfect, and I was just there, an afterthought. The only person who ever truly understood me was my mom. She was my rock, always ready with a hug and words of encouragement. When she passed away when I was 18, my world collapsed. Dad, he buried himself in work, leaving me alone to deal with my grief. Now, here I am, dreading another annual family reunion at Dad's fancy estate. As I pack my bag, my phone buzzes. Aunt Susan, "Hey sweetie, can't wait to see you tomorrow." "You're coming, right?" I sigh, typing back a quick, "Wouldn't miss it," before tossing my phone aside. Why do I keep putting myself through this? I mutter, throwing a few more outfits into my suitcase. The next day, I pull up to Dad's estate, my stomach in knots. I spot Uncle Tom's car in the driveway, which means the golden boy is already here. Great. I ring the doorbell, plastering on my best fake smile. Aunt Susan opens the door, her face lighting up. "Olivia, look at you, sweetie. You get more beautiful every time I see you." I force a laugh. "Thanks, Aunt Susan. You look great too." She ushers me inside, chattering away. "Everyone's out back. Your father's grilling, and oh, Mark brought his new girlfriend. She's just lovely." Of course he did. I bet Dad's already planning their wedding. I take a deep breath and step onto the patio, forcing a smile as I approach the group. Dad's at the grill, and Mark's beside him, looking as smug as ever. Well, well, look who finally decided to show up," my father says, his words slightly slurred. "Traffic was awful," I lie, trying to keep things civil. "How's everyone?" Mark jumps in. "Oh, we're great. I was just telling Uncle Rick about my new business venture. It's going to be huge." I nod, barely listening as Mark dives into his latest get-rich-quick scheme. My eyes wander around the patio, scanning the familiar faces of my relatives, all hanging on Mark's every word. Aunt Susan appears beside me, handing me a glass of wine. Here, sweetie, you look like you need this. Thanks, I murmur, taking a long sip. As the evening drags on, we gather around the dining table on the patio. The tension is thick, at least for me. Everyone else seems to be having a grand old time, laughing at my father's increasingly inappropriate jokes. Then, out of nowhere, my dad stands up, swaying slightly. "I'd like to make a toast," he announces, his voice booming. "To my nephew, Mark, the son I never had." A chorus of cheers erupts, but I feel my face flush with embarrassment and anger. "Mark, my boy," my father continues, "you've made me proud. Your new business venture is exactly the kind of innovation this family needs, unlike some people." His eyes flicker toward me just for a second before looking away. I grip my wine glass tighter, my knuckles turning white. But nothing could have prepared me for what came next. You know my father slurs. I always thought having kids would be great, but sometimes mistakes happen. The table falls silent. All eyes turn to me. "Dad?" I whisper, my voice barely audible. "What are you saying?" He laughs, a cold, bitter sound. "Oh, come on, Olivia. You know you were never part of the plan. Your mother insisted on keeping you, but me? I knew you'd never measure up to the Evans name." The silence that follows is suffocating. I shot up so fast that my chair clattered to the floor behind me. "Excuse me," I managed to choke out before fleeing into the house. My feet carried me to my father's study, where I collapsed into tears, my mind racing. How could he say that, in front of everyone? The door creaked open behind me, and I didn't have to turn around to know it was him. "What do you want?" I spat, my voice hoarse. "To explain," he said, oddly calm. "Explain what?" "That I'm not good enough for this family's precious legacy." I spun around to face him, my heart pounding. He sighed heavily, settling into his leather chair. "It's not just about that. I've made some changes to my will, Olivia. Mark has shown real promise, and I think it's time." "You're giving him my inheritance," I interrupted, my disbelief turning to rage. He didn't even flinch. "The majority of it, yes. It's what's best for the family business." I stared at him, my heart sinking. "So that's it. You're just writing me off, like I don't even matter." "Don't be dramatic, Olivia," he said, waving his hand dismissively. "You'll still get something, just not as much as we initially discussed." I stood there, shaking with anger and hurt. "You know what? Keep it. Keep all of it. I don't want anything from you." He raised a brow. "Don't be hasty." "No," I cut him off, my voice sharp and steady. "I'm done. Done with you, with this family, with all of it. You want Mark as your heir? Fine. But don't expect to hear from me ever again." I stormed out, ignoring the curious and concerned stares from my relatives as I grabbed my purse and keys. Just as I reached my car, I heard Aunt Susan's voice calling after me. "Olivia, wait. Where are you going?" I turned back, my voice icy. "Ask your brother. I'm sure he'll be thrilled to tell you all about his mistake." Without another word, I got into my car and drove away, tears blurring my vision as the estate faded in my rearview mirror. I vowed then and there that this would be the last time Richard Evans or any of them would hurt me again. I was done with this toxic family for good. By the time I stumbled into my apartment, I was emotionally drained. My phone buzzed. It was Zoe, my best friend. "Girl, where are you?" "I thought we were grabbing drinks tonight," her text read. "Zoe, you won't believe the night I've had," I typed back, my fingers trembling as I fought back fresh tears. "I'm coming over." "Don't move," she replied instantly. 30 minutes later, Zoe was at my door, a bottle of wine in hand and sympathy in her eyes. I poured my heart out to her. Dad's drunken speech, the mistake comment, the inheritance bombshell. "That rat bastard," Zoe muttered, pouring us both another glass of wine. "Liv, you can't let him get away with this." "What am I supposed to do? It's his money." Zoe's eyes lit up. "What if there's more to the story? Your mom always seemed, I don't know, like she was protecting you from something." I frowned. "What do you mean?" "Remember how she'd get weird anytime your dad's business came up? Maybe there's dirt you don't know about." The idea gnawed at me. My mom's old letters were still in the attic. Maybe they held some answers. The next morning, nursing a hangover, I climbed into the attic. Dust-covered boxes were stacked everywhere. After an hour of searching, I found a small locked box labeled Elizabeth's personal. Inside were dozens of letters, but one stood out. In my mom's handwriting, it read, "My dearest Olivia, if you're reading this, I'm gone. There's so much I wanted to tell you, about your father, about our family, things I was too afraid to say. Know that I've left something for you, something your father doesn't know about. It's not much, but it's yours. Look for the key where the sun always shines. All my love, Mom." My hands shook as I held the letter. What did she mean? What was Dad hiding? I couldn't do this alone. That's how I found myself in a dimly lit office, sitting across from Jake, a private investigator with a 5 o'clock shadow and eyes that had seen too much. "So, you want me to dig up dirt on your old man?" Jake asked, leaning back in his creaky chair. "I need to know the truth, about him, about the business, everything." Jake nodded slowly. "All right, Miss Evans. But I warn you," Jake said, leaning back in his chair, "sometimes the truth ain't pretty." A week later, Jake called. "You better come down here. You're going to want to see this yourself." I rushed to his office, where he had documents scattered across his desk. "Your daddy's been a busy boy," Jake began, his tone grim. "Offshore accounts, shell companies, the works. And get this, your cousin Mark? He's in it up to his eyeballs too." I flipped through the files, my stomach twisting with every page. Fraud, embezzlement, insider trading. It was all there in black and white. "There's more," Jake added. "Your mom, she knew. That's why she set up a separate account for you. It's not much compared to your dad's fortune, but it's clean, and it's all yours." I sat there stunned. Mom had known all along. She tried to protect me the only way she could. "What do I do now?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper, overwhelmed by the weight of it all. Jake leaned forward, his eyes steady. "That's up to you, Miss Evans. But if I were you, I'd make him pay." As I left Jake's office, my mind was spinning. I had the truth now. But what was I going to do with it? One thing was clear. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Dad and Mark thought they could push me aside, but they had no idea what was coming. And now here I am, standing outside Dad's office, my heart pounding like a jackhammer. The USB drive in my hand feels like it weighs a ton. It's showtime. I stride in, channeling all the confidence I've learned to fake over the years. Dad and Mark look up, surprise flickering across their faces before it hardens into annoyance. "What's the meaning of this, Olivia?" Dad barks, his voice sharp. I smirk, feeling the power shift in the room. "Oh, just thought I'd drop by for a little family meeting. You know, to discuss offshore accounts, fraud, the usual Evans family business." Their faces? Priceless. I wish I had a camera. "You can't prove anything," Mark sputters, his voice shaky. "Actually, cousin dearest," I say, pulling out the USB drive, "I can, and I will, unless." Long story short, I walked out of that office with my rightful share of the company and a very legally binding agreement. Turns out, I'm pretty good at hostile takeovers. So what's next for Olivia Evans? Who knows? But one thing's for sure. I'm done living in anyone's shadow. This is my story now, and I'm just getting started. The story of Olivia Evans has come to an end. What would you do if you discovered your family's dark secrets? Would you expose them, even if it meant destroying your family's reputation? Or would you stay quiet to protect your loved ones? How far would you go for justice? Is revenge ever truly worth it? Share your thoughts in the comments below.